The Grosvenor was swallowed by a consuming darkness. No one on board knew what they had struck. Most believed it was an outlying reef, or perhaps a rogue island. Just hours earlier, Captain Coxon had confidently reassured them that the African coast lay over 200 miles to their west. But unknown to all, the ancient Portuguese maps they trusted as guides for their voyage were drastically outdated. As the ship shuddered and groaned in the pitch black, every soul on board understood the gravity of their situation. In the 18th century, a shipwreck was a death sentence, particularly in the heart of a brutal winter storm. Blame began to circulate, weaving through the growing chaos. Coxon, driven by a desperate urge to return home swiftly, had chosen to sail during the worst possible season. Experienced sailors knew the Southern Ocean's wrath in winter, its unforgiving power. He had taken a reckless gamble, betting everything on one final, dangerous run, only to witness his hopes and their lives dissolve into the storm's fury. The third mate, Thomas Beale, wasn't spared from this growing blame either. His dismissal of Haberley and Shaw's warnings echoed in the turmoil. Had he only listened, shown a hint of concern, perhaps they would have sighted land and avoided this calamity. Perhaps the grog flowing that night had dulled their senses as well, contributing to the unfolding disaster. Alexander Logie, the chief mate who should have been overseeing navigation, had fallen so ill during the voyage that he was confined to his bunk, his pregnant wife Lydia nursing him throughout the most perilous parts of the trip. Ultimately, it was a cascade of errors, compounded by a winter storm and the deceptive darkness that concealed the land, which sealed the Grosvenor's fate. The ship fought a losing battle, and the passengers faced the terrifying reality of a shipwreck and the grim spectre of death looming large over them all. Chapter 2: Cast by Chaos. It is August the 4th, 1782. The pre-dawn chill grips the Grosvenor, a violent shudder running deep through the ship. An unseen menace, a submerged reef as sharp as a jagged claw, tears into the vessel's hull. Each swell becomes a fresh assault, a brutal hammer against wood. Darkness swallows everything, and fear bubbles up from the ship's depths. Jolted from sleep, passengers stumble into chaos, their eyes widening at the terrifying sight. Towering waves, their crests foaming white, crash relentlessly. Lightning streaks across the sky, revealing faces twisted in terror. Second mate William Shaw fights the salt spray, his eyes straining into the blackness. He seeks any glimmer of hope, but finds only unyielding waves and a merciless storm. Captain Coxon emerges, his voice tight with forced reassurance. He promises escape, but his words offer little comfort against the storm's fury. Below deck, Mary Jose clutches her daughter, a small, fragile weight against her chest, her breath shallow and ragged. She searches for a sign, but finds only a flickering lamplight casting dancing shadows, mocking her despair. Her husband, William, frantically pushes valuables into his pockets, each movement a desperate attempt to hold on to something, anything, in the face of utter peril. In the crew's mess, the cook sits hunched. His shoulders bow under the weight of impending disaster. His gaze is vacant, fixed on some distant point, a memory perhaps, or the spectre of what he fears is to come. The bottle of whiskey he holds offers no solace, only a temporary blurring of reality. The ship groans, a living thing in agony. With each shudder, he feels the cold hand of fate close a little tighter. An hour of terror bleeds into the first hint of sunlight. As pale light touches the sky and the night's grip loosens, a stark truth emerges. Barely 50 meters away, jagged rocks jut from a shore of rolling green hills. Mainland Africa. The strange lights seen hours before are now understood. Distant fires on a hillside. Salvation is so close, yet so impossibly far. Razor-sharp rocks stand like teeth against the crashing sea. Exhaustion paints the crew's faces, silent, trapped by impossible choices. Coxswain notices a shift in the wind, now blowing offshore. A flicker of hope ignites. Perhaps he can dislodge the ship, steer it towards an inlet. Miraculously, the masts still stand. The command rings out to raise the sails. Sailors pull on heavy ropes and the canvas billows in the wind. With a deep groan, the Grosvenor breaks free. But this newfound liberty comes at a devastating cost. A gaping wound in her hull, now exposed to the sea, becomes a torrent of rushing seawater. Panic erupts. The ship must be forced back onto the rocks before it disappears beneath the waves. Axes swing, severing lines. With a heavy thud, the great sails collapse onto the deck. Then, as if the ocean itself offers a lifeline, a swell nudges the Grosvenor's stern against the rocks once more. Exhausted, injured, those aboard begin to conceive a desperate attempt to reach land. Hopes now rest on two small safety boats, the jolly boat and the yawl. The order comes to release them, but as the jolly boat is pulled towards the ship's bow, a wave crashes, sweeping it across the deck, slamming it into the wheel and the roundhouse door. The yawl, their last chance, suffers the same fate, splintering against broken masts, cast into the churning surf. Coxswain surveys his crew, two Italian sailors, eyes fixed with determination at the promised reward, step forward. Ropes are clenched between their teeth as they lower themselves into the tumultuous sea. A hush falls over the shattered deck. Everyone watches, breath held tight, as two heads bob and flailing arms disappear and reappear. Then a monstrous wave surges, snatching one of the men. His scream vanishes into the ocean's roar. His body slams against the rocks. The other Italian, against all odds, battles the surging surf, straining, stretching, until his hand finds a grip on a jagged rock. Three Lascars immediately follow, leaping into the sea, risking everything to secure a rope to dry land. Back on the ship, a midshipman ties this rope to the mizzenmast and winches it taut. This rope, this slender thread, becomes the single point of connection between the doomed vessel and the promise of land. Isaac Blair, a servant of the dismissed Captain Talbot, seizes his chance. Clutching his few meager belongings, he slides onto the coarse rope. His hands burn, raw against the fibre, but he pulls inch by agonizing inch. Blair reaches land, but his added weight causes the rope to sag, snaring it amongst the rocks. Others, desperate, their eyes fixed on the green hills, follow Blair's lead. The sea shows no mercy. Waves crash against the rope, tearing men from their desperate grip, their bodies flung against the rocks. Among those battling the surf are Francisco de Lasso, an Italian sailor, and Robert Price, Coxswain's 14-year-old servant. De Lasso, a powerful swimmer, fights the churning water, finally reaching the shore, collapsing onto the wet sand. Then, he watches in horror as a monstrous wave snatches young Price, hurling him headfirst onto exposed rocks. The boy lies still, a dark stain spreading across his forehead from a deep gash. Compassion overwhelms De Lasso's exhaustion. He watches the waves, waiting for a brief lull. A chance arrives. He surges forward, reaches the boy, grips his hair, and drags them across sharp rocks to a small patch of sand. Blood flows from Price's head, deepening the red on the sand. On the crippled Grosvenor, a desperate energy erupts. Amidst the wreckage of the shattered jolly boat, a sliver of hope appears. Sailors salvage what they can, hands moving feverishly, lashing together a makeshift raft. Fragile against the sea's power, 5 brave men push it into the surging water and clamber aboard. The tide carries them towards the shore, but then a massive wave rises, a wall of water lifting the raft into the air. For a terrifying moment, the men hang suspended, their doom reflected in the churning water below. The wave crashes down, splintering the raft against the rocks. The sound of shattering wood mingle with the final cries of the men, their lives extinguished in those fleeting seconds. Those remaining on the ship witness this horrifying spectacle. The sea, which had briefly offered them a path to safety, now reveals its true nature, a bringer of only death. A chilling truth settles upon them. The ocean is their enemy, and to enter its grasp is to court oblivion. For 3 long hours, the only sound is the relentless pounding of the waves against the wreck. The survivors remain paralyzed by fear, resigned to whatever fate awaits them. Then, around midday, a deep groan shudders through the ship, a final death rattle. The stern, wedged fast against the rocks, becomes their last refuge as the bow tears free with a series of cracks and vanishes into the sea. Shaw and Haberley, driven by a primal will to survive, waste no time. With a final glance at their broken vessel, they launch themselves onto the slack rope, their knuckles white as they grip against the surge. It is a terrifying battle against the raw power of the ocean, but inch by agonizing inch, they haul themselves closer to land. Haberley reaches the rocks and is pulled to safety by the waiting lascars. Shaw, moments behind, narrowly escapes a massive wave and collapses onto solid ground, gasping for breath. One by one, other sailors follow, their bodies bruised and battered, the shoreline transforming into a scene of desperate struggle and heartbreaking loss. On the sinking stern, the passengers huddle, a desperate mass clinging to what remains as they obey their captain's final commands. Hope flickers, then seems to die, extinguished by the persistent waves. But then, something impossible occurs. A powerful surge lifts the wreckage. It carries them closer to the jagged rocks that threaten to shatter everything. Time hangs suspended. Each breath is held, a silent prayer against imminent destruction. And then, an onshore breeze, as if guided by providence, begins to steer the battered stern towards a shallow inlet. A glimmer of sanctuary, faint but real. The lifeline to the shore miraculously holds. A dozen men pull, muscles screaming in protest, every ounce of their strength strained on the thick rope. Their combined effort slowly guides the broken vessel towards the relative safety of the shallows. Finally, with a jarring crunch, the stern bumps against the shoreline. Without hesitation, the passengers leap into the frigid water. Limbs stiff, unresponsive after hours of cold and fear, they struggle to find purchase on the slippery rocks. But profound gratitude fills their hearts for this unexpected reprieve. William Jose carefully lowers his wife and young daughter over the jagged edge, their small hands clinging to his with desperate strength. He hops over the broken railing onto the rugged shoreline, the sharp edges of the rocks a welcome sensation beneath his soaked and weary feet. The afternoon light fades, marking 12 hours since the Grosvenor struck the hidden reef. By 5 o'clock, those who have defied death stand on solid ground. They huddle together, a fragile band against the vastness of the African coast. Their eyes, hollowed by terror and exhaustion, struggle to comprehend the scene of absolute ruin. The once proud East Indiaman, their vessel, their world, is now shattered wreckage, silhouetted against the darkening sky. 15 souls are lost to the relentless sea, but against all odds, the majority have reached the shore. The courage of the Italian sailor and the 3 Lascars who secured that vital lifeline is undeniable. They are, without question, the heroes of this desperate hour. Relief washes over the survivors, but it is quickly shadowed by a new unease. Along the shore, flames flicker. Dark figures move, their distinctive conical hairstyles illuminated by the firelight. They work with an unsettling ease, dismantling the shattered remains of the Grosvenor for its metal, a grim familiarity in their actions. The Europeans, consumed by their own desperate fight just hours before, now turn their gaze to these inhabitants of this alien land. They are strangers here, their fate in the hands of a people whose thoughts they can only guess at. For the amaMpondo, the native people of this coast, the arrival of these white faces, these abelungu, is a scene already etched in their collective memory. On their shores, history is repeating itself. For generations, stories echoed around the amaMpondo firesides, tales of strange ships and pale-faced strangers washing ashore. They called the vessels ikwembe, giant wooden meat trays that brought the unknown from across the sea. While the Portuguese were the first whose shipwrecks were officially recorded, these weren't the first outsiders. Arab traders had come before, silent figures bartering for goods. Whispers even spoke of Indian and Chinese explorers visiting the coast long before any Europeans. Most stories faded with time, but one tale remained vivid for those scavenging the Grosvenor's remains. 45 years before the Grosvenor met its doom, another vessel foundered at Lambazi Bay. Although the ship's name vanished with the tide, one survivor lived on in legend. It is a gusty autumn afternoon in 1737. The amaMpondo people, their gazes drawn by an ancient instinct, gather on the beach. Out at sea, a monstrous wooden shape, like a giant fish with tree trunks jutting from its belly, struggles against the fierce currents. It drifts slowly, a fragile giant, its plight pulling the amaMpondo closer to the shore. They watch in silence as tiny figures scurry on the deck, their desperate movements visible even from this distance. Masts, once proud, crash into the churning sea, ropes snaking behind them. Each shudder of the vessel, each flailing figure, speaks of a silent, desperate battle against an unseen force. As the sun begins its descent, dipping below the rolling hills, the current seizes the vessel. It slams against the rocks with a sickening crunch, and fearful cries pierce the salty air. Night falls, and the Pondo retreat to the sanctuary of their huts. The next morning, only splintered wreckage remains, scattered across the sand, the ship torn apart by the infamous wild coast currents. The locals begin to search the debris. Iron, in particular, is a rare and valuable find, a metal usually obtained through distant trade with the Basotho far inland or the amaHlubi to their north. As they forage, a cry echoes from a hidden inlet. Cautiously, the Pondo approach. Huddled behind a rock, a small group of foreigners sit together. Their faces are pale, drawn with exhaustion, their clothes tattered remnants against the biting wind. 3 men stare back with weary eyes. Beside them, a girl, no older than 6, clings to one of the men. Her small frame trembles, and her blue eyes, wide with a fear too vast for such a young child, reflect the sea that brought her there. The amaMpondo face a stark choice: welcome these strangers, or leave them to fate. A great meeting follows, chiefs gathering in the heart of their village, their voices measured as they debate the strangers' fate. Stories of past castaways, especially the Portuguese, colour their discussions. They recall tales of abuse, of stolen cattle, and homes put to torch by foreign men. Darker whispers, too, circulate, tales of cannibalism amongst those driven to the brink. After much deliberation, a decision is reached. The 4 foreigners are to be brought to their homes. The girl, they notice, possesses a remarkable spirit. Beyond her striking beauty, a gentle kindness radiates from her, an endearing quality not lost on her would-be protectors. Though the terror of the shipwreck had seemingly stolen her memories, she remembered her name. In the confusion of languages, a single word repeatedly spills from her mouth as she points to herself. Bess. The amaMpondo do not meet the bewildered child with suspicion. Instead, they embrace her with a profound and quiet acceptance. They give her a new name, Uma, meaning roar of the sea. They welcome her into their world, a realm governed by ancient traditions, rich customs, and intricate social structures. Bessie, now Uma, possessing a spirit far beyond her tender age, shows remarkable resilience and gentle adaptability. She immerses herself in their ways, learning their language, the nuances of their interactions, and the practical skills essential for survival in this new world. She earns genuine respect, not just as a curiosity, but as an integral part of their community. Despite her transformation, she never forgot where she came from. Her descendants would later recall how she brushed her long black hair each night and adorned herself with seashells, small rituals that tether her to a past almost lost. As an orphan, a concept almost alien to their close-knit society, she finds protection with Buddy, one of the men found with her, who becomes her adopted father. The community's support goes further. Every white calf born is given to her, a symbol of her good fortune and the blessings she brings. By her teens, Uma presides over a herd of several hundred white cattle, a sight so unusual it draws visitors from afar, their curiosity piqued by her extraordinary story and her pale herd. Besides Uma and Buddy, the other 2 men found with her also become integral to the community under Chief Matai, the paramount leader of the amaMpondo. He grants one of the men a cherished position, ruling one of the chief's late father's houses, a testament to their integration. Word of this exotic young white girl, now thriving within the amaMpondo, spreads quickly through the region. It reaches Choman, the son of the chief Matai, a leader of considerable influence with many wives already in his household. He finds himself drawn to Uma's story, to her resilience and the quiet dignity she carries. In a decision that defies convention, he chooses her, this European child, to become his great wife, the most senior of his consorts, destined to bear his principal heirs. Lavish celebrations follow, a joyful affirmation of the union. A goat's gallbladder is poured over her head in a traditional blessing, and she receives a dowry of 300 cattle, a sign of her immense value. In an extraordinary turn of fate, this English castaway, once a nameless waif clinging to life on a foreign shore, ascends to become a queen in the vibrant kingdom of Pondoland. However, Bessie and Choman's marriage is short-lived. The chief dies soon after, before she can bear him any heirs, leaving her a widow and her future uncertain. Then comes a scandalous twist. Sango, a relative of the late chief, ascends the throne and boldly declares his intention to wed Kuma. Shock ripples through the community. But despite the societal murmurs and potential taboos, Sango gets his way. Many believe the two are better suited, their connection undeniable, and they enjoy a passionate and enduring marriage. Kuma bears Sango 4 children, strong heirs to the amaChoman chiefdom, securing her legacy. She names her youngest, her only daughter, Bessie, a tender tribute to her former life and the name she carries from a distant past. The amaChoman later moves south from Lambazi to settle along the Mgazan River. Around this time, the other men found with Bessie, fully integrated into the amaMpondo way of life, established their own tribe. They are called the Abelungu, a name that refers to the white foam of waves breaking on the beach, and thus to the pale skin color of the foreign castaways. This tribe, a living legacy of that ancient shipwreck, still exists today, forever intertwined with Bessie's remarkable story. Kuma lived for 7 remarkable decades after her arrival, weaving her life into the fabric of the amaMpondo and the broader Xhosa people. Her story became legend, passed down through generations, a testament to human connection across cultural divides. Some elders whispered that even today, the occasional flash of blue eyes among the locals serves as a reminder of her European ancestry. Her story transcends survival. It is a powerful symbol of cultural fusion, acceptance, and the unexpected threads that weave together the histories of disparate peoples.
We're incredibly grateful to have a sponsor for this season of More Than a Story, and not just any sponsor, but one deeply connected to the very tale we're telling. Lambazi Lodge is supporting the show this season, and we're genuinely thrilled to introduce them to you. Explore the untamed wild coast and come away with unforgettable memories of the warm hospitality, the beautiful surroundings, and the sense of peace that lingers long after you leave. Just a short walk from the tunnel where treasure hunters once searched for the Grosvenor's lost riches, Lambazi Lodge offers a front-row seat to history. But it's more than a historical landmark. It's the perfect base for families, fishermen, hikers, and adventurers looking to explore the untamed beauty of the wild coast. To plan your own escape, visit lambazilodge.com and use the promo code MoreThanAStory10 to get 10% off your booking during designated dates.
While Kuma, now aged in her mid-50s, went about her daily tasks, just a day's journey north, across rolling landscapes and winding paths, a contingent of individuals from distant lands huddled together under a darkening sky. These foreigners, their hearts filled with trepidation, yearned for the same warmth of welcome, the same open arms that Kuma's people often extended to strangers. Back at the site of the Grosvenor wreck, rain begins to fall. The Grosvenor survivors, a motley assembly brought low by misfortune, watch their first sunsets in Africa. The previous night, social strata defined their existence. The privileged indulged in revelry within their cabins, while others attended to their needs. Now, the tempestuous African coast has stripped away these artificial barriers. The relentless waves care not for lineage or title, and the biting wind mocks the distinctions that once held sway. Stewards and lascars, their uniforms torn and sodden, sit alongside soldiers, their once proud bearing replaced with a shared vulnerability. Servants, accustomed to quiet deference, find themselves equal to their former masters in this crucible of survival. Each castaway now stands at the mercy of a land both beautiful and indifferent, its indigenous inhabitants already irrevocably altered by the relentless advance of colonial ambition. A tangible anxiety envelops them, thick and heavy as the salt spray. Exhaustion etches deep lines on their faces, and their soaked garments cling to them, offering little respite from the penetrating chill. They seek what meager shelter they can find, huddling together for warmth as the cold rain continues its assault. Darkness deepens, swallowing the shoreline and amplifying their fears. In the oppressive blackness, their minds race with questions. What perils lurk in this strange and untamed land? What manner of reception will they receive from its people, whose ways are unknown and whose intentions are shrouded in mystery? The approaching dawn holds the answers, a story unto itself, a tapestry woven with threads of hardship, encounter, and revelation that will forever alter their destinies. Join us next week as we take a brief detour from the Grosvenor's harrowing tale. Before we delve deeper into the fate of its castaways, we'll journey back in time to explore the history of previous shipwrecks and castaway narratives along this very coastline. Understanding these early encounters will illuminate the complex context into which the Grosvenor survivors have stumbled, offering a crucial lens through which to view the impending struggle for survival and encounter with Africa's people. That's next week on More Than a Story. If you would like to get in touch or support the show, please visit our website, morethanastory.co.za. There you can find additional media on this tale, as well as others that have shaped our complex continent. If you have a story yourself that you would like to put forward for the show, please get in touch. Thanks again to Lambazi Lodge for supporting this season, and to Active Escapes for curating exceptional adventure tours along this breathtaking coastline and other stunning regions of our country. If you are enjoying this story, I highly recommend Hazel Crampton's The Sunburnt Queen. Her book delves into Bessie's remarkable story with exquisite detail, offering profound insight into the rich culture of this region. The diverse and enchanting stories of Africa hold immense power, acting as vital threads in the tapestry of continental understanding and unity. By unpacking these tales, we gain profound insight into the shared human experiences and unique identities, ultimately contributing to a more cohesive and unified Africa.